She is also a learning and development specialist with the Learning and Development Network International. It is also interesting to have you here today with this international perspective as well. She is also a certified etiquette coach, very interesting, and image consultant from the Luxury Academy London. She has worked in various business sectors: Union Bank, PLC, Alstrat, Trust Bank, Standard Trust Bank, AFDB, Command Days Secondary School. She is also involved in a UNESCO teacher awarded. Bumoga is very passionate about various trends and the lifelong learning. She has a bachelor degree in chemistry, an executive MBA from Business School Netherlands, and teaching qualifications TKT13 from the University of Cambridge. So we are also very pleased to have you today, Bumoa, and I think we'll have a very interesting session as usual. Uchechi, I think the floor is yours. You have the slides, and please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me. Good morning, BSN. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm sharing on the topic, the role of decision-making in defining an organization's culture. And I have a lot of stories, and today I'd like to start out with some of them. Now, I resumed in a multinational institution with very high expectations of a very well-structured environment, which was a presentation. And a few months after I resumed, they were in process of changing their software. So it was time to cut over, and they needed to train the front-end users. So I was nominated to go to Dubai for this training. I was told not to mention it yet to my line manager, that they would manage that end when it was necessary. I was also a nursing mother at the time, and I told them, and they said it was okay, I could travel with my baby. So in due course, I submitted his passport, the nanny's passport. I was going to pay their tickets, and all seemed set. And then at the point when my line manager got involved, all hell broke loose. And he said, no, I was new. I was still trying to understudy the system. He had so many things to say. And he added something, which I didn't quite understand at the time. And he said, I heard this later, that those are items they use in rewarding people who have been around. But what he did was really the shocking thing. The person that he eventually nominated to attend this training was someone who had already resigned and was serving her notice period. Incredible as it sounds, this lady is the one who traveled, went for the training, and by the time she was back, she was already due. I don't remember her passing on any training at all. It was supposed to be a train-the-trainer. So here we are stuck. We are the major users. That's the reason I was chosen to go. So we now had to start all of the stress, phone calls and all of that, because we were using these applications every day in hundreds. All right, I end there. Another story. One of my senior colleagues at the time, very senior colleagues, probably a general manager, or yes, a general manager. She decides to employ a sibling against the organization's policy in country. And she brings the sibling in. They're both married, so they have different surnames. You won't know at the outset. She brings her in. She doesn't have industry experience, but she gives her a level that is for an experienced staff. It doesn't end there. She gives her the highest level, the highest salary on that level. It doesn't end there. She puts her in a branch that is behind her house. And that is a luxury for us in our part of the country, because people plan several hours of traffic going to work and back. Now, somewhere along the line, whistle was blown. And after the whistle was blown, she was called, and I understand she was summoned thrice from the group. She denied. And at the end of the day, she was dismissed and blacklisted in the industry. Now, questions. Why would anyone make a decision that doesn't even make any sense, putting it together? Why would anyone be so against achieving the goals of the organization? Why? Why would anyone stubbornly hold onto a position that really does not advance any cause? Those are some questions that have always intrigued me and which I've come to find really define who we say we are, way beyond any policies, way beyond any procedures. So let's look at some of these quotes. Umesh Ramakrishnan says that while culture is often seen as an abstract concept, the lens of decision-making offers a very tangible and effective way to analyze and define culture within an organization. And I want to say that the decisions that we make, not even the process, not even the decision-making, but the decisions that we make define our culture. That is what says how we do things around here. That is what says who we are. He also noted that 63% of senior executives have either resigned or considered resigning due to frustration with decision-making. The daunting reality is that enormously important decisions made by very intelligent people with the best information, because we have a way of assuming that, oh, the information was incomplete, they didn't have all the details. No, with the best information and hopefully with the best intentions are sometimes hopelessly flawed. Now, this is from an article in the HBR, the source is there. Why? And that quote is from the Why Good Leaders Make Bad Decisions, the Harvard Business Review publication, 2009. So let's look at some of the reasons, and I'll tell some of the back-end stories that really defined what happened in both instances. So here we're looking at red flag conditions. We're trying to answer the question why people do things like that. Going by misleading experiences and misleading prejudgments. Now, in both cases, the two people that were involved were the favorite of the country manager. Very good. And here we are, I'm encountering the country manager several years later. And as a product manager, there's some new hires and I'm to go and train them in another city. And all arrangements have been made. I have my ticket in my hand. I've made all arrangements. And then it gets to her. And because she has I would say, personal dislike for me, she says, no, I can't go. Okay, I don't know what's happening. And then someone else, another product manager, who is not owner of the product, has to go to train. It was at that point that I got to know some things. There was a template running. And that template is that when it comes to travel, when it comes to hotels, when it comes to allowances, They have nothing to do with achieving the organizational goals. They are about your favorites. They are about rewards for loyalty, rewards for maybe being in your team. That explained why nobody could seriously challenge that other decision that honestly completely did not add up, because the organization suffered. Why he could not be stopped at that time is because he certainly had the ears of the country manager, who would have done exactly the same thing. And that is where decision-making defines our culture, the precise decisions that we take. So it has nothing to do with our policies. In the same way, misleading prejudgments. It's possible that this template came to be because there was some experience. Maybe someone you've dealt with in the past who didn't stay, wasn't a confirmed staff, maybe, it had nothing to do with the policies anyway. Now, emotions. My line manager got very angry that I was the one chosen, that the decision was made without him. He wasn't the process owner. So the process owners had made a decision that was best for the organization, but he thought otherwise. Now, stubbornness. You hold on to this position, it doesn't add up, you stick to it. Inappropriate self-interest. That lady wanted her sister employed. She wanted her employed on the best terms. She didn't consider the risk to her own job, but there it cost her a career of probably over 20 years. So why was she also able to do it? When that bubble burst and they said, all right, so if you know your sibling, spouse, parent, child, come forward, or you will also be dismissed when we find out. It was shocking to find out that the only people who stepped forward were kith and kin of the country manager. So talking about misleading judgments, assumptions, and prejudgments, if these people had been in the system for a while and nothing happened to them, it was okay for her to assume that the same would be for her. So in essence, the things that we decide to do and actually do define the way we do things. That is who we are as a people. So how can we look at some of these? How can we safeguard some of these? First and foremost is really to just be rational. Be rational. Take a moment to stop and think. Recognize the triggers. When hatred wells up, when anger wells up, when you feel that greed, do you stop to ask yourself? Do you debate? Do you challenge? Do you approach anyone who is not related to what you're doing? Can you get an objective assessment from another party who is not directly related? That could just help you, like the lady who ended her career. Maybe if she asked someone, she may just have gotten the advice that this risk would not be worth taking. So recognizing the triggers when those emotions come up, they will almost always, in fact, I know a quote that says that anger rests in the bosom of a fool, and I usually paraphrase it to say that a lot of foolish actions follow anger. So when we don't stop to catch ourselves when we're making these bad decisions, there will be no help. Our experience needs to be subjected to some analysis. We need to put together data to really see how things connect and to get to the bottom of how things really happened or what happened. Now, we also need to strengthen governance. But what I find is that even in the case where the organization is very strong in their policies and their procedures, where they have a very low risk tolerance level, you will find that when it comes to these decisions, then suddenly we have a very high risk appetite because we don't want to do what is right. So we need to monitor. We need to monitor. Do we set up committees? Do we set up, teams to ensure that no one person can take a decision? But I'm still saying that culture flows from the leader. So there's really not much you can do when the leader is in himself the embodiment of the behavior you do not want to see. Because at the end of the day, that is who you are as a person, as a team, as an organization. So I'm not sure I have much more time.
Yeah, I think you have still 3 minutes.
I have 3 more minutes. Okay, thank you very much. So in safeguarding, I would always say, if you want to maintain your culture, if you want to safeguard your institution, then ensure that who you bring in is ab initio an embodiment of the culture you want to see. Otherwise, you are going to see just about anything. Just about anything. Pay attention to who you bring in. When you look at their experience, always match it against what is most important to you as an organization, because culture is very deep. Culture is difficult to change. People default to their original templates when they were growing up, templates when their early life experiences, and they just resort to it when once there's a difficult moment or when once there's a trigger. I was so shocked only a few days ago to read that some members of staff of Meta were asked to leave because they were abusing their lunch feeding tickets, and one of them, it was noted, is earning $400,000, over $400,000. So why is it that when you're not available to take the meal, why do you still want to take the money somehow? Why? Because a template is running somewhere. So it's not about the policy. And I was amazed to read that some of them had even been called to order by HR and they had arguments. So you see that someone somewhere has an entitlement mentality. Someone somewhere is greedy. Someone somewhere will not let go even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's going to cost you a job that you're earning almost $500,000. So that's why it's difficult, but to the extent that you can, strengthen your governance. Strengthen your governance. Don't use governance to hunt people, because in some institutions, when it is not in the favor of the leader, all of the policies come out, all of the procedures come out, the processes, all of them are employed. And that is when you have consequences. Otherwise, the leader takes it all. It's the only winner. Every other person loses, the organization loses, and nobody says anything. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Uchechi. Very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing the story and the way you articulated the concept of decision making and culture. So, Momoa, the floor is yours for reflection.
Thank you, Mohammed. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Uchechi. You've said so much, but I want to state that I'm going to be speaking from a place of survey and a place of data. I don't know how many of you have heard of Gartner Inc. This is a management consulting firm in Connecticut. And Gartner is known worldwide for churning up magic survey reports that a lot of organizations use all over the world. And they've done a report that has plenty of constructive projections for 2005. And I'll just share from there, to complement what Uchechi has said. They have, from their reports, they've discovered that leaders are overwhelmed by their tasks. They have ever-increasing tasks, so they are overwhelmed. They're tired of change and afraid to own up they cannot lead. It was also discovered that the leadership and management development programs are a bit archaic. What we're used to is the seminars and conferences, which is fine, but what Gartner is proposing is that we have support groups for leaders, so they can express their challenges and learn from their peers. Gartner is also proposing simulation programs to complement recruitment. It's not enough for a candidate to pass a recruitment test or interview. A simulation program will help HR, confirm that this candidate can make good decisions, especially if he or she is going to take on a leadership role. And then finally, they're proposing that, HR creates an enabling environment where even employees in management training programs can admit that they cannot lead. Nobody will, they won't face any type of stigma. They won't face any type of, witch hunting, or, their salaries will not be cut, but because they can come out and say, look, I can't do this anymore, it's allowed, they're supported fully. And I want to go back to what Uchechi has said, decisions must align with business objectives. This is the only way culture is preserved. So far, from the Gartner report, leaders have owned up that, even with technology, they cannot preserve culture. This is serious, very, very serious. And I want to state that when culture is continuously preserved, you get a brand. So culture, decision-making, and, leadership is key, very, very key. We cannot miss this. What am I saying in essence? The only way to write this is to continuously edit the culture. How do you edit the culture? Get feedback from employees. Find out how they what their experience is with the organization, which Uchechi has shared so much. If someone was checking, I won't leave it to just HR. If someone was checking with employees, a lot would have been avoided. So I want to stop there. I don't want to overshoot, Mohammed. Let's go into questions. Thank you.
Yes, sure. Uchechi, can you please stop sharing, maybe just to have everybody on the screen for the questions? Thank you very much, Bumoya, for the reflection. I think it is very interesting topic. So we welcome the questions or the comments. So we have Ijoma and Imam who's saying that the teaching today is very great, but how do we balance a situation where we know that a subordinate gives everyone trouble and the higher positions come up and the person want it, but the superiors does not want him or her to get the higher position because of his or her attitude to work? Maybe Uchechi can start giving us insight on this question.
Okay, I may need to hear the question again.
Yeah, sure. I will directly go to the question. So the teaching today is very great, but how do we balance a situation where we know that the subordinate gives everyone trouble and a higher position comes up and the person wants it, but the superiors does not want to him or her to get the higher position because of his or her attitude to work?
Okay. Well, there's already a leadership problem, and there is not going to be much that will be done. This person who wants to apply, now the subordinate who is being unruly, I would say, has reason to be that way because he or she is emulating the leader. If you check, definitely that person is in the good books of the leader. So there's nothing that you're going to do about it. And leaders basically hire people who are like them. They're seeking harmony even in their unethical conduct. They're seeking harmony even in their the way they make sense of happenings, situations. So they are not going to bring you in if you are now going to be in a position where you will probably call this subordinate to order. What I would say is that that's the reason why you have as high as 63% making decisions based on what they see happening around. So you may just want to be part of that number because you will not be given that position. You will not. You will not be given. High potentials are definitely ignored in a culture that does not celebrate excellence, where you have to reward people just for being loyal and not even for doing the work.
Thank you very much, Uchechi. I think this question from Suzuyo Nugando, I will address it to Bumoga. It has a direct relation with etiquette, I think. So thanks for the insightful presentation. How do we address the issue of sexual harassment or sex for jobs, which is pervasive in large institutions?
This is a very sensitive one. But what I will say is you go back to your policy and procedures. It's safer. Policy, procedures, labor laws, so that even in trying to execute fairness and judgment, you keep to the rules. There has to be plenty of evidence, of course. And like I say, you approach it with caution because at the end of the day, you don't want to leave anyone with defamation, any kind of defamation from your end or on the other end. So you start with your procedure. If your procedure says you can query, you go ahead and query. And then once you get a response, depending on the number of times this person has committed a misdemeanor, you either give a warning, a verbal warning, or a written warning, or you subject this person or persons to a disciplinary hearing. And even at a disciplinary hearing, you have to be extra cautious. Go with the labor laws so that you don't fetch the company any liable of any kind. And then depending on what your findings are from that hearing, you subject to stakeholders take a decision. At stakeholder level, you also advise so that you avoid liability. So this is how I would approach it, but try not to be personal, try not to go with any assumptions of any kind.
Thank you very much, Bumoa. Another interesting question, this one maybe for Uchechi. How can an employee work in place where the leader has a spy giving feedback to the leader?
There will always be a spy. That reminds me of a place where I worked, where the people who were actively getting people out of their jobs and getting their proposals approved were the drivers, the cleaners. So You don't even need a staff to be the spy. And I'm not kidding. Somebody who is a relation to someone somewhere, you come in and you're cleaning the office and you're listening to everything. And then they will just call the executive director and they say, who is this silly person you brought here? Who is always, you know, or some driver will say, who is this person that is always taking me to this place? You people will find out what she's doing in this place. Every day she takes me to this place. I hope you people have business. And you will not get anything approved. So here is my answer to that. First and foremost, you don't know who is an embodiment of a spy. So please be professional at all times. Be nice to people.
Yeah.
Just be plain nice.
Yeah.
So that they don't remember you.
Thank you very much, Uchechi. Thank you. Another interesting question. Please, is loyalty not as important as expertise in workplace? Should rewards be heavily on expertise? And how do we draw the line? I don't know if Uchechi can add something, and maybe Bumoga at the end also for this question.
Okay, so that person is saying that rewards should be tied to expertise and not to loyalty. And what I want to say there to that is that the human being is a very complex person. That's why we always need to be, I like to refer to work as very spiritual, because sometimes we dislike people for absolutely no reason. We've spoken about, you know, experiences that mislead us. It can just be that you look or you sound like someone who hurt me in the past. And because of that, I don't like you. And I'm sorry to say, but it will take really strong governance for you to get what is due to you, because somebody has to sponsor you when it is time to make that decision. So depending on how ethical and how accountable the leader is, the decision maker is, because some people just don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. They will say every other thing except the real reason why they don't want to do something. You know, for as simple as, I don't like your face, not because you have not done enough. You will do enough and then they will expect you to do a lot more. I remember when I didn't get a reward, someone would say something like, oh, well, you have a lot more years experience, so you should be doing so much more. And then nobody speaks about the fact that you have by far exceeded your budget. That which was assigned to you, you have done. But when it's time for the promotion, you are told that, well, you should have actually done even much more. So those who have a lot less experience, who did this much, should be the ones to get that. So.
Sure. Okay, I think that we reached our limit of time. I don't know, Bumo, if you want to add something for the last question about the balance of, or let's say the focus on loyalty rather than expertise, and we will maybe end this session with this last comment.
Okay, just a quick one that for rewards, you know, it's like it should be a personal culture if you're a leader. Okay, rewards should start with as little as affirmations, and you know, starting with thank you, nice job, great, you know, I'm happy with what you've done. It shouldn't always come as money or as a promotion. And if you make rewards your personal culture, you will eliminate loyalty, which mutates to sycophancy, you know, sometimes. And if you're fair, if people see that you're fair with your affirmations, you know, you find out that, you know, over time, you've rewarded everyone. You know, that's just what I want to chip in. Okay.
Thank you very much, Bumuha. So thank you very much, everybody. So we have a lot of comments as well in the chat. I think it was a very interesting subject, of course. Just to remind you that for next week, Tuesday, 29th of October, we have another, of course, session of Good Morning BSN entitled Performance Leadership, Clarity and Accountability. It will be presented by Ebunoluwa Opelami and reflected by Violet Olalekan Alabi. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining this very interesting session. and wish you all the best for the week. Thank you very much.